Well, I guess we're live on YouTube, and I'd like to, it's March 23rd, Tuesday morning, and would like to welcome everyone to our ag meeting. We had a lot of business on the Senate floor this morning, so we're a little late in getting started. I'd like to welcome our guest this morning, Carrie Giguere. And would you like to introduce yourself? Is it Canra?
Nika Gandhi from the Agency of Agriculture. It's good to see you again.
I'm glad you introduced yourself because you wouldn't know who I was introducing if I introduced you. So anyways, welcome to the meeting. And I think we were going to hear from you in regards to what you were recommending in the innovation board group. And I don't know who is going to lead off. Did you have a preference? Who is going to start? Are you starting, Carrie, and then switching?
Sure, I'd love to. I can do that for you, Senator Starr. For the record, Carrie Giguere, Director of the Public Health Ag Resource Management Division at the Agency of Ag. As you're well aware, you had a bill moving through the Senate last year that was a sort of a victim of COVID. It did make it to the House, but they didn't necessarily work on it. So we heard the message from the Senate that VPAC, the Vermont Pesticide Advisory Council, wasn't necessarily living up to the charges that folks would like to see it living up to. A lot of that has to do with the history of why it was formed and how it was formed. It was revamped under Governor Kunin with an executive order that changed the council. Largely the makeup of the council was state entities that were responsible for using pesticides. So the Agency of Natural Resources had 3 seats on the council because Forest and Parks was using pesticides at the time for gypsy moth control and conifer release. Fish and Wildlife was using pesticides in their hatcheries. VTrans, the Vermont Agency of Transportation, was using herbicides to maintain their rights of way. And when Governor Kunin issued her executive order, all of those state agencies were responsible for submitting pesticide use impact assessments that would be housed at the Agency of Agriculture and reviewed by the Pesticide Advisory Council. Over the years, the charge of the council had changed, but the makeup of the body had not. And taking a sort of page from the playbook that you guys have already established, and I know one senator giving testimony to Senator Polina a few years ago or last session, I was explaining that if we took away one product, it would soon just be replaced by another product. And he said, well, why don't we change the way we do things? And so in order to change agriculture, I think the best route is to incentivize some new technology and new practices. It was in your committee last session that we heard from Tom Eaton, a crop advisor, talking about all the innovations in precision ag and how those technologies were in fact reducing pesticide uses. So we done our best to throw together a board to discuss some of these new innovations in agriculture and how to incentivize moving towards practices that don't rely on the chemistries that we currently have available. And with that, we brought Kanika to the agency last year, the week before we were all sent home, and she spent the summer doing outreach and sort of visualizing what this new board would look like. We've talked about it quite a bit, but she's done a significant amount of outreach to folks, and what we're presenting you is a bill that started in the House that would eliminate the Pesticide Advisory Council, maintain its duties in the Agricultural Innovation Board, and expand the scope, largely because when we start talking about cover cropping and terminating that cover crop with glyphosate and all those issues, we're talking about soil health, we're talking about unintended consequences. It's a larger conversation than just eliminating the tool that they currently use to terminate a cover crop. And this board, we're hoping to bring the current best expertise in Vermont to the table to discuss some of those issues. And with that, I'll turn it over to Kanika. I'm assuming at some point you'll get a walkthrough from Mr. O'Grady, and unless you would prefer that we do that now.
No, I think with our time constraints, it would be good to hear from both of you, and get a feel for why we're even doing this and the importance of doing it. And then we'll have Michael in to run through the all the details and all of that. So Kanika, glad to have you with us, and you can tell us about your outreach that you did last summer and where you're helping direct this new program.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Senator Starr. Thanks for having me here. So basically, as Carrie mentioned, VPAC in its current capacity is not functioning in the way that we would like it to. We hear these bills coming in, they're ban this, ban that, and it's not really a productive way to implement the changes that we need to, and to keep Vermont. I guess it's kind of this is a way for us to modernize the way that we look at pesticides, and we can't look at them in a silo, which is what we've been doing, looking at individual chemistries with a group of people that are focused on a very narrow scope. And so what the vision for the bill was, and why I reached out to a lot of people who work on pesticide issues in the state, was to, first of all, change the membership of the board. So make it a board that includes people who are out in the field, people who are policy experts, people who are, scientists, researchers, people who know different parts of the process and are involved in different parts of where pesticides are used. And so when you do a walkthrough of the bill, you'll see that the scope is seemingly very large, but there's a wide range of issues that pesticides, touch on. And Carrie mentioned cover cropping. There's also soil health. There's environmental issues. There's human health issues. So what the vision is to make the board bigger and include more diversity of stakeholders, so that we can have a different range of opinions at the table, and ultimately come up with policy solutions to present to the legislature through vetted work that includes a wide range of input. So the vision is to meet more frequently than VPAC does, and to touch on topics, really look at unintended consequences. I think sometimes these bills are introduced, there's a ton of unintended consequences that come out of them. And so this would be a very well vetted, very in theory, well-rounded look at how we can address pesticide issues and emerging issues and new issues through policy and through sound legislation that has been discussed by a wide variety of people. And so that's kind of the vision. And when Mr. O'Grady walks through the bill with you, you'll see the changes in membership. You'll also see that the ultimate goal is to come up with an annual report that looks at what we can be doing to help farmers if they want to transition off of using certain pesticides, or if they want to change the way that they currently operate. And so it's just a way for us to modernize how we look at certain agricultural aspects in terms of pesticides, and how we can make sure that we're doing it in the most responsible and inclusive way.
Yeah. Any idea that you could give us on how many different groups or individuals did you meet with to help you formulate the different ideas to come up with helping Carrie and the agency put forth this particular legislation?
So I would say we reached out to a bunch of different groups. First of all, we reached out to the various state agencies that are currently represented in VPAC. We also reached out to kind of environmental advocacy groups, farmer advocacy groups. Carrie, who am I missing? Who else did we reach out to?
Well, some of them aren't really affiliated with groups, but you spoke with Jared Carpenter, and he represents a bunch of different groups. You spoke with Maddie Kempner from NOFA. I spoke with Nicole Daney. Margaret Lagus is also aware and supportive of what we're trying to do here. So it was a diverse cross section of folks, and I think one of the things that people are excited about and willing to sit down around the table and discuss is the Pesticide Advisory Council has traditionally never discussed agriculture, never really talked about ag pesticide use, and this is a spot to do that outside of VPR, if you will. We see stories about glyphosate use or atrazine use or pesticide use, and those aren't the opinions of any experts. They're basically news, if you will, that our reporters discovered. I'm sorry, looking at Senator Polina reminded me that Kanika had also reached out to rural Vermont and discussed this as well.
Yeah, and just I think adding to that, when the bill was voted out of the House Agriculture Committee and also out of House Appropriations, it got kind of unanimous support in both places, and and on the floor. And I think that's because the point is not the point is to make the board very wide-reaching so that all opinions are discussed and we can find solutions that work for everyone, and work in a variety of different operations. So it's to make sure that there is balance. And that's why I think there was that unanimous support on the House side, because we wanted to be realistic and practical solutions that work for a wide range of groups and people.
And I just wanted to add, in discussions with Secretary Moore, the Agency of Natural Resources used to have a large representation on the Pesticide Advisory Council. That seat would be reduced to one, but to take care of her concerns about losing sort of the scientific oversight, some of the folks that are at the Agency of Natural Resources, we would follow a model that the Endangered Species Committee uses. And that's the Endangered Species Committee is appointed in an advisory body in and of itself, but that committee also uses scientific advisory panels that aren't made up of folks who don't sit on the Endangered Species Committee. So for instance, I represent agriculture on the Endangered Species Committee, and our state entomology, who comes from our program, is on the Invertebrate Scientific Advisory Group, or ISAG, if you will. So thanks, Chris, for laughing. That was supposed to be a joke. But anyways, we would utilize a similar model in that as the board went through its discussions, we would use outside advisory, scientific advisory groups to support the work of that board.
Yeah, and something that's come up is, through informal and more committee conversations, is there's mention of soil health, there's mention of climate change. It's not that this board would come in and ignore work that's happening with other committees that were created, or other groups that are collaborative and similar in nature. We would want to also work with those groups that are looking at certain issues to figure out where pesticides fit into that puzzle and how we can collaborate. It's not, you'll see in the language there's mention of other existing boards and committees with different types of charges, but there is going to be overlap, and we want to work together. And either at the agency or whoever sits on the committee, there will be some sort of liaising between the groups.
Members, committee members, questions for Carrie or Kanika? No. Anthony, you put in bills in the past in regards to these subjects. What do you think about the direction that this is heading in?
Well, of course, I begin by being skeptical of all these things, of course. But no, I think Takika made a point that we've been working on trying to remove certain pesticides from the marketplace and from our farms over the years. And it is kind of a scattershot kind of thing where, we all pick on glyphosate for a variety of reasons, but then there's other chemicals that we feel the same way about. And I think to have an overall approach to just trying to improve, innovate, be more innovative when it comes to our farming is important. And I think as long as this group continues to look at pesticides as an issue, but is more than able to look at the broader issues about how do we want to move towards a more sustainable, maybe more regenerative agriculture, I think it's got potential. I think it's a good idea. I just don't want us to lose the focus on trying to remove pesticides off of our farms and off of the markets. But I think, doing it one at a time, the way we've been doing it over the years, has clearly not worked, quite honestly. And so I think that having a more comprehensive approach is a good idea.
Yeah.
And I think I heard him say, did I hear you guys say that it passed the House unanimously? Did I hear that? Yeah, and the committees?
It did. I didn't look at the floor vote, but it came out of agriculture, natural resources, and because it's a board, government operations, unanimously. It came out of those committees.
Yeah, and they didn't do a roll call vote on the floor, but there was no opposition.
Right. I just don't like it. I just don't want us to put together a board that doesn't do anything. I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but that's always the skepticism, is that putting together a board and the board will meet once in a while and it won't really come up with anything novel or move us forward. And I just hope that we could make sure that this actually sinks its teeth into some of these issues. I think that cover cropping is an important part of the discussion around chemicals and regenerative agriculture and all the things that we talk about in this committee. We need to be a more innovative approach to where we go with agriculture, and this could do it.
And Senator Polina, Kanika came on board at the agency a year ago. I don't know if you all have much experience with Kanika and her work in the State House, but I found her to be an amazing facilitator in bringing both sides of an issue together to discuss a path forward. And I think the state would be remiss not to take advantage of the talent that we currently have.
Yeah, I'm somewhat familiar with her work in State House before she took a job at your place.
Well, must be you did pretty well if you didn't get any major battles once you got to the House floor, because I remember when I was over there, we used to have some knockdown dragouts over pesticides and herbicides and all those great things. And it was always a rough deal when you came out with a bill. Of course, I was on Ag, and Chuck Ross, former Secretary of Ag, was pretty big in on the Natural Resources Committee, and I think it was Chuck that Gordy Booth was was my chair over on the House side, and he said, "Well, Bobby, you're going to have to take him on this," and so, anyways, I knew that Chuck didn't like reading very well. So I said, well, to myself, if I can show he hasn't even read the bill, maybe it'll give me a leg up on. So anyway, I started questioning him on different sections of the bill. Sure enough, he hadn't read the bill at all. And he was out there trying to report it. And I mean, it was always crazy. So I'm glad to hear that you did very well on the House side, and you know, that gives us a little confidence, I would think, in how well the bill's been put together. I'm sure though that they forgot something and didn't do, you know, their job that well, but what there's room for improvement from us. So no, we'll you know, we'll get Michael in and O'Grady, and you know, go through all the different sections, and hopefully we'll have a better way for Vermont to understand you know, why we need certain products and why we should be getting rid of certain things, and that's what this process is all about. And to, you know, into the future, I mean, we find out new things almost every year that, well, if we hadn't been using this, it would have prevented, you know, this disease or that disease. And anyway, so are there any questions for the agency from any members? If not, thanks a lot for, you know, hanging around this morning. We kind of late getting to you, but certainly appreciate you waiting for us and making time when we did get going to present to us.
Very good.
So,
And thank you for having us. And we're
Yeah.
available, because I'm sure questions will come up. The House decided that since there were, the last council was the majority of the folks were state employees. The majority of the folks on this are not state employees, and I just wanted to make sure that you know that the House decided that they should be compensated for their time, and I wanted to make you aware that compensation would come out of the pesticide monitoring fund, And
Yeah.
the financial impact is not significant to that fund.
Yeah, seems like I heard you had a whole stash of cash there. I don't know if that was accurate or not, but have you been hoarding money?
What hat are you wearing right now, Senator?
Well,
Appropriations or Senate Ag?
well, you know where I sit in the afternoons, and we're always looking for stored up cash
Yeah,
to help us during lean times. And, you know, even though we got millions coming out of Washington, we could always use some extra greenbacks. No,
there's not
No,
much in the fund at all.
I was just surprised of the number. I guess when I heard the number,
Did you hear something around 3 million?
it was, yeah, it had an M after the number, not a T or just a little dollar sign with a few numbers. It was a pretty long number.
Your data is probably correct, Senator.
Well,
Carrie-
anyways.
Carrie's Kingdom, I like to call it.
Thanks again, and we'll, you know, and also to you folks, anytime you feel that you hear something that you think that we may have heard wrong or that you would like to bring to our attention, feel free to check in with Linda and we'll get you right in.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank
Thanks.
you, Kanika, and good luck to you and welcome to the Senate Ag Committee.
Thank you.
Okay, committee, we, I don't know if we have other issues that we need to talk in regards to, but we have another meeting at 12:15. So Chris?
Just for Linda, did Senate Natural deal with their amendment, or do we know? Should I text Michael? What do you think?
I haven't heard back. I texted Jude. I do know Michael was with them following the floor, working on that.
All right, well, I'll hop off and we can discuss it tomorrow because we're not on the floor till the afternoon, but maybe I'll hop off and go watch what they're doing.
Yeah, how did it go the other day down there? Or you didn't get there, right?
Anthony was there for a different bill. Remember we just asked that they make a small tweak to their amendment.
Yeah,
Who knows what they'll be able to, if they'll be able to deal with that.
Yeah, basically it said that the new composting operations, the farmers were prohibited from the growth centers and other things, and we wanted to add the words unless explicitly approved by the local community or something to that effect,
yeah.
which is what they said was in current law, actually. Michael said it was current law.
Well, yeah, the other day I was down by Cambridge. Hell, they have a farm right in the village. Well, I mean, you could almost throw a stone from the village to the fields in Cambridge. You know, in a lot of small communities, farms are right up to the edge, and it would be pretty darn handy if they had a little composting facility there for the people that lived in town. So I think that change would be really helpful to the people of Vermont. Well, if
Great.
there isn't anything else, we'll let Chris get going and we can have a bite to eat and be ready for 12:15. So thanks.